You know, there's something rather curious about the way we talk about having a positive mental attitude. We speak about it as though it were a fortress we must build, brick by brick, defending ourselves against the chaos of the world. We imagine we must become warriors of positivity, armed with affirmations and shields of optimism, fighting off every negative thought like invaders at the gate. But what if I told you that this entire approach is precisely what keeps your mind fragile? What if the secret to an unbreakable attitude is not in building walls at all, but in understanding that the mind, like water, becomes strongest when it learns to flow? Let's begin with something essential. Your experience of life is not determined by what happens to you. It is determined by how you perceive what happens to you. This is not positive thinking in the shallow sense. This is recognizing that the lens through which you view reality is more powerful than reality itself. Imagine two people standing at the edge of an ocean during a storm. One sees chaos, danger, destruction. The other sees power, beauty, the raw poetry of nature expressing itself. Same ocean, same storm, different worlds. The difference is not in the water or the wind. The difference is in the consciousness observing it. Now, what we call a winner's mindset is really just this, clarity of perception. It's not about dominating life or conquering circumstances. It's about seeing clearly. When you see clearly, you stop interpreting every challenge as a personal assault. You begin to understand that life is not happening to you, it is simply happening, and you are part of the happening. Think of it like this. When you watch a river flow around a rock, do you think the river is suffering? Do you imagine it's upset about the obstacle? Of course not. The river simply flows. It doesn't resist the rock. It doesn't curse its existence. It moves around it, and in doing so, it shapes both the rock and itself. This is effortless adaptation. This is the mind that cannot be broken, not because it's hard, but because it's fluid. Most people, when they encounter an obstacle, become like ice. They freeze, they become rigid with fear, with anger, with resentment. And what happens to ice when pressure is applied? It cracks, it shatters. But water yields, adapts, moves, and eventually it finds its way through everything. Your perception creates your reality far more than you realize. Two people can lose their jobs on the same day. One sees it as the end of the world, a confirmation of their worst fears about themselves. The other sees it as liberation, an opportunity to pursue something they've always dreamed about. The circumstances are identical. The suffering or joy that follows depends entirely on the story the mind tells about what happened. And here's the beautiful thing. You get to choose which story you tell, not in a forced, artificial way, but by developing the awareness to notice when you're adding unnecessary drama to neutral events. By catching yourself in the act of interpretation and asking, is this the only way to see this situation? What else might be true? Consider this. Every single moment of your life, your mind is making thousands of tiny interpretations. You walk into a room and someone doesn't smile at you. Your mind immediately creates a story. They don't like me. I must have done something wrong. They're judging me. But the reality? Perhaps they didn't even see you. Perhaps they're lost in their own thoughts. Perhaps they're dealing with pain you know nothing about. Your interpretation created your suffering, not the event itself. When you begin to see this pattern, when you catch yourself spinning narratives about neutral events, you start to develop what the Buddhists call discriminating awareness. You learn to distinguish between what actually happened and what your mind added to it. And in that gap, in that space between event and interpretation, you find freedom. This is where an unbreakable attitude is born, not in denying reality, but in seeing it clearly, without the distortion of ego and fear. Here's where things get interesting. Most of the suffering you experience in your life comes from one fundamental misunderstanding, the belief that you should be able to control everything. You think that a positive mental attitude means controlling your thoughts, controlling your emotions, controlling outcomes, but control is an illusion. And the moment you try to grip life too tightly, it slips through your fingers like sand. Let me put it to you this way. Have you ever tried to hold water in your fist? The tighter you squeeze, the more it escapes. But if you simply cup your hands gently, the water stays. Life works the same way. The universe is not a machine that responds to your demands. It is a dance, and you are invited to move with it, not against it. The Taoists understood this beautifully. They spoke of Wu Wei, effortless action, or action without force. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing things in harmony with the natural flow of life. When you align yourself with the rhythm of existence, you stop exhausting yourself trying to swim upstream. You let the current carry you, and paradoxically, you move faster and with far less effort. Now someone might say, but Alan, doesn't that mean I should just give up? Just accept everything and become passive? No, no, no. You see, there's a profound difference between acceptance and passivity. Acceptance is not resignation. Acceptance is seeing things as they are, without the filter of your ego's demands. When you accept what is, you stop wasting energy fighting reality. And that energy becomes available for creative response. Imagine a sailor on the ocean. The sailor cannot control the wind, but the sailor who accepts the wind, who understands its patterns, who adjusts the sails accordingly, that sailor reaches the destination. The one who curses the wind, who fights it, who demands it blow in a different direction, that one remains stuck, exhausted, bitter. Let me tell you something about control that might surprise you. The things you can actually control in this life are remarkably few. You cannot control other people. You cannot control the economy, the weather, the traffic, or the countless circumstances that surround you every day. You cannot even fully control your own body. It ages, it gets sick, it responds to stimuli in ways you don't always choose. But here's what you can influence: your response, your attention, your attitude. And when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable and focus instead on the one thing that is genuinely within your power, your own state of consciousness, everything changes. There's a kind of freedom in this realization. When you stop demanding that the universe conform to your preferences, you discover that you're no longer at war with reality. You're dancing with it, and a dancer doesn't control the music. The dancer responds to it, moves with it, becomes one with it. This is the secret of an unbreakable mind. It doesn't fight the music of life. It learns the rhythm and moves accordingly. I remember once watching a master calligrapher at work. His brush